There's an old herbalist saying, Hawthorn is for broken hearts, and for centuries people thought that was just poetic until cardiologists started studying it and discovered something absolutely mind-blowing. Hawthorn doesn't just work on your physical heart, it works on both hearts, the muscle in your chest and the emotional heart. The berries and the flowers work on these two hearts in completely opposite ways. One opens and one protects. One is for acute crisis, one is for long-term building. One moves up and out, and one moves down and in. But there's a specific type of heartbreak, and I mean actual cardiac damage, where using the wrong part of hawthorn at the wrong time could be dangerous. Let me explain why. An herbalist in her 80s told me a story I'll never forget. In the old days, she said, when someone's husband or wife died, we'd bring them hawthorn flower tea immediately, within hours. Not berry, never berry at first, always flower. And I asked why. She said, grief is a form of shock, and shock needs opening, not closing. The flower opens, the berry protects. You open first, then you protect. At the time, I thought she was being mystical, but now, after all these years of studying herbal energetics and cardiac physiology, I understand she was being precise. You see, hawthorn is called a cardiotonic. In herbalism, that means it tones, strengthens, and regulates the heart. But what a lot of people don't understand is that toning can happen through two completely different mechanisms. For example, we've got relaxation, where there's opening, vasodilation, letting go, or strengthening with building, fortifying, and protecting. Hawthorn flower does the first, and hawthorn berry does the second. And if you use strengthening medicine when the heart needs opening, or opening medicine when the heart needs strengthening, you're working against the body's wisdom. So once again, we ask, how can the same plant have opposite energetic actions? Well, just think about it. Hawthorn flower blooms in spring, the season of opening, rising, and expanding. It's white, delicate, aromatic, reaching towards the sun, whereas hawthorn berry ripens in the fall, the season of harvest, consolidation, gathering in. It's deep red, dense, substantial, holding on to the branch through early winter. The plant itself is showing you the energetics. Spring for opening, ascending, ethereal. Fall, closing, descending, material. And this isn't just poetic. The chemistry backs this up completely. Here's an interesting part, and this is what modern cardiology is finally catching up to. Hawthorn doesn't just work on your cardiovascular system. It works on what traditional Chinese medicine calls Shen, the spirit that lives in the heart. And there's one condition, one specific heart pattern, where you absolutely must understand the difference between the flower and berry, or you could make things dramatically worse. But before I tell you about that pattern, you need to understand the energetics of each part. So let's start with hawthorn flower, the opener. Hawthorn flower is what I call the gentle unraveler. Its energetic properties are cooling, slightly drying, relaxing. It moves energy upward and outward. It opens, dilates, and releases. And it works on the acute, the surface, the immediate. As for its physical actions, it's a vasodilator, opening blood vessels. It's a mild hypotensive, gently lowering blood pressure. It's anxiolytic, meaning anti-anxiety, and it's antispasmodic, releasing tension. So here's what's actually happening. Hawthorn flower contains high levels of flavonoids, specifically hyperoside and vitexin. These compounds relax smooth muscle tissue and blood vessel walls, causing vasodilation. Blood pressure drops gently, circulation improves, and tension releases. But here's the key. This is acute medicine. It works relatively quickly, within hours to days. It's not building anything. It's releasing what's tight, opening what's closed, and allowing flow where there's constriction. The primary uses for hawthorn flower include acute anxiety with heart palpitations, stress-induced high blood pressure, panic attacks with chest tightness, acute grief or emotional shock, hypertension from stress or emotional tension, that wired feeling where you can't calm down, a racing heart from nervousness. In traditional Chinese medicine terms, hawthorn flower calms the shen. It settles the spirit that lives in the heart. When your thoughts are racing, when you can't sleep because of worry, when your chest feels tight with emotion, this is flower territory. I make hawthorn flower tea when I'm anxious. Within 30 minutes, I feel my shoulders drop, my breathing deepen, and my mind quiets. It's not sedating, it's releasing. Here's the energetic pattern for the flower. Excess in the chest, meaning too much heat, too much tension, too much emotion. It's for when we need opening, releasing, cooling. It's for acute symptoms, relatively recent onset. It's for when there's too much rather than not enough. So what if you're not excess? What if you're depleted, weak, and exhausted? That's when flowers can actually make you worse. So we turn towards the berry, which is the builder. Hawthorn berry is a completely different medicine. Its energetic properties include being neutral to slightly warming, nourishing, and strengthening. Its energy moves downward and inward. It consolidates, fortifies, and protects. It works on the chronic, the deep, the constitutional. Here are its physical actions. It actually strengthens heart muscle contractions. It increases cardiac output. It improves oxygen utilization in the heart muscle. It reduces cholesterol and arterial plaque. It protects against ischemic damage. Now this is what's actually happening. Hawthorn berry contains proanthocyanidins, also called OPCs, oligomeric proanthocyanidins, that literally strengthen the connective tissue in blood vessel walls and improve the heart muscle's ability to contract efficiently. This isn't about relaxation. It's about building power and resilience. Studies show hawthorn berry improves ejection fraction in congestive heart failure. It increases exercise tolerance and reduces symptoms of angina. This is deep structural medicine. The primary uses for hawthorn berry include for congestive heart failure, weakened heart muscle, in other words, cardiomyopathy, for post-heart attack recovery, chronic high blood pressure from weak circulation, poor cardiac output, even chronic grief that's depleted you. It's for long-term emotional numbness or depression, and atherosclerosis and arterial health. In traditional Chinese medicine terms, hawthorn berry tonifies heart qi and blood. It builds the substance and energy of the heart. When you're exhausted, when your heart feels weak, when there's not enough power behind the pump, this is berry territory. Now turning towards the energetic pattern for the berry, we're looking at deficiency, where there's not enough strength, not enough circulation, and not enough resilience. Here we need building, fortifying, and nourishing. And it's for chronic symptoms, long-standing conditions. It's for when there's not enough rather than too much. And of course, here's the crucial difference. The berry takes time, and we're talking about 6 to 12 weeks of daily use before you see significant changes. It's not acute medicine. This is constitutional medicine. Clients with stage 2 heart failure improved their ejection fraction by 15 to 20% over 6 months of hawthorn berry extract. But it required patience, consistency, and the right part of the plant. And here's where people do get into trouble. What happens if you use flower when you need berry, or berry when you need flower? I learned this the hard way. A friend was going through a brutal breakup, couldn't sleep, chest tight with anxiety, heart racing, classic acute stress pattern, and I gave her hawthorn flower tea. Within days, she was sleeping better and felt more calm. But then she read online that hawthorn berry is better for the heart, so she switched. And within a week, she felt worse, more anxious, chest tighter. And she called me confused. Why did it stop working? Well, because she switched from opening medicine to building medicine, when her heart still needed to release, not strengthen. And here's the pattern that's even more critical, the one that can be dangerous if you get it wrong. There is a specific cardiac condition where you absolutely must use berry, never flower. And if you use flower, you could trigger the exact crisis you're trying to prevent. The critical pattern is a weakened heart muscle with fluid backup, early to moderate congestive heart failure. Here's why this matters. In congestive heart failure, the heart muscle is too weak to pump effectively. Blood backs up, fluid accumulates in lungs and tissues. The problem isn't tension or constriction, it's insufficient power. If you use hawthorn flower in this pattern, you're relaxing and dilating when the heart needs strengthening and consolidation. You could potentially worsen fluid backup by further reducing what little contractile force exists. Hawthorn berry, on the other hand, is one of the most well-researched natural medicines for congestive heart failure. It strengthens contractility, improves efficiency, and helps the heart do its job better. So here's the rule. Weak pump, low output, fluid backup, use the berry because it's strengthening. If it's a tight chest, high tension, acute stress that you're dealing with, use the flower because it's opening. But most people with heart issues have both patterns at different times or simultaneously. So what do you do then? Now this is where traditional herbalism gets sophisticated. You can use both, but in the right sequence and proportion. Here's the traditional approach. For acute stress with underlying weakness, start with the flower to address the acute symptoms, transition to berry to build long-term resilience, and eventually use both, the flower for breakthrough anxiety and the berry as a daily tonic. For chronic depletion with acute flare-ups, primary focus is on the berry, daily and for months. Keep the flower on hand for acute anxiety or palpitations. Think of the flower as a rescue remedy and the berry as a foundation. When it comes to emotional heartbreak, the first days and weeks, use the flower for shock, grief, and acute pain. After 2 to 4 weeks, shift over to the berry to rebuild emotional resilience. Remember, you open first, then you protect. And here's something beautiful. You can actually combine leaf and flower in the acute phase. The traditional European formula is hawthorn flowering tops, which means young leaves and flowers together, harvested in May. This gives you the opening quality of the flower with the gentle toning of the leaf. Then as fall comes round and you're ready to build deeper resilience, you transition to the berry. Now here's a decision tree that you can use. Use the flower if you have acute anxiety, panic, emotional crisis, stress-induced palpitations, or high blood pressure, a tight chest and racing thoughts, a recent heartbreak or shock, too much in the chest that needs release. Use the berry if you have a weakened heart muscle and congestive heart failure, chronic fatigue with poor circulation, long-term depletion from grief, post-cardiac event recovery, not enough power, and you need building. Use both sequentially if you have acute stress layered on chronic weakness, grief that's both sharp and depleting, heart disease with anxiety. And here's the real wisdom. Hawthorn is teaching us something profound about healing itself. There's a time to open and a time to close, a time to release and a time to protect, a time for flowers and a time for berries. Western medicine often misses this. We want one solution, one pill, one answer. But the body doesn't work that way. Sometimes it needs to let go. Sometimes it needs to build strength. And wisdom is knowing which one and when. Hawthorn gives us both options. From the same plant in the same year. Spring flowers for opening, fall berries for gathering in. Your heart, both the physical and the emotional one, needs both. The question isn't, should I take Hawthorn? The question is, which Hawthorn does my heart need right now? And now you know how to answer that. So here's my invitation. This spring, when hawthorn blooms, make flower tea and feel the opening. Then this fall, when berries ripen, make a berry decoction and feel the fortifying. And in the Ultimate Herbal Database, we have some recipes that you can use. For example, how to make hawthorn flower syrup. Learn the difference in your own body, because that's the only way this becomes real medicine instead of just information. Thanks for watching, and may your heart, all of it, be well.